And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick alongside Alix Steel. We're counting you down to the closing bell, here to help take us beyond the bell. It's a global simulcast. We're joined right now, as you are every day at this time, by Scarlet Fu in our television studio, Carol Massar and Tim Stenovec in our radio booth. A welcome to our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms on what looks like it's going to be another record-setting day for the S&P 500.
All I really want to know is, can I have a side of fries with the nothing burger?
Oh, gosh.
Yes,
listen.
maybe. Cheese fries?
Hey, listen, you know what? Yeah, we do have maybe a record close, but small caps really not partaking in this run-up in stocks. It's definitely some of the bigger cap names that we're seeing in this trade.
And also not seeing a record as we speak now on Bitcoin, though the fact of the matter is it has been record day after day, still above $71,000 per Bitcoin, up a cool 70% so far this year, Scarlett.
Okay, so small caps not participating, big caps not participating, but you do see the credit market not really missing a step because corporate bond issuance is pretty rock steady today, even after the inflation report showed slightly hotter print than expected for the month of February.
But obviously, big tech outperforming, and I love tying this into the Bank of America note that we got earlier today about earnings, is that the big guys like a Microsoft and a Google and a Meta and Amazon, they're going to be spending a lot of money on CapEx as a reinvestment cycle. Now, that is a fundamental thesis to why some of these names will be going higher. There are a lot of beneficiaries of that kind of money, Romaine.
Yeah, but the question, though, is how widespread is that going to be, right? I mean, that's been the story for a while for those large cap names, and I guess that's great if we can continue to sort of have the market being driven by those names, but where's the broadening out in that spending?
Maybe there isn't.
Yeah.
The small caps.
I don't know. It'll be interesting. Let's walk you through the numbers here as we break down all the action here on the day. Green across the screen, at least for the large caps on this Tuesday afternoon. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up by about 200 points or 0.6% here on the day. The NASDAQ Composite is going to finish higher by roughly about 1.5%, but it's the S&P 500 that's really shining right now. A 1.1% gain on the day, 57 points higher, 5,175 and change, and that is, yes, a fresh record high. And as Carol was just alluding to, small caps not really getting much love, at least for the day. The Russell 2000 relatively unchanged here on the day, sitting out the rally.
Yeah, and you know what? We really saw a rally is those Chinese names that trade in the United States, the NASDAQ Golden Dragon, up almost 4%.
Blast from the past.
I know, but, you know, we've seen Chinese stocks up about 20% from the low. So, you know, you do wonder, do we hit a market bottom here, at least on those names, Scarlett?
Leave it to Carol to keep an eye on those names. I'm looking at the different sectors within the S&P 500, and the biggest groups saw the biggest gains. You have infotech, communication services, and consumer discretionary all up by at least 1%, with tech as a group up by 2.5%. The smallest parts of the market, utilities, real estate investment trusts, and energy, each losing ground. That's why the pie is so green.
All right. Speaking of green, let's get to some of the individual namers. Oracle, number one gainer in the S&P 500. I believe closing at a record. I have to double check that, but it's up about 12% here at the close. Thanks, Romaine. So hitting a record in the close here today. Cloud revenue growth, right? We were breaking their earnings down after the close yesterday. Company did report third quarter results that beat expectations on key metrics, said demand for the company's Gen 2 AI infrastructure substantially exceeding supply. Company also saying Oracle to have exciting joint announcements with NVIDIA soon. Mizuho raising its price target to 160 from 140, and that stock closing at just below 130 a share. All right, so speaking of NVIDIA, the climb is back. It's up 7% here at the close, a gainer after a two-day rout that wiped about $172 billion off the world's most valuable chip makers' market cap. Latest retreat had come after, we know, an unbelievable rally in this name that propelled it into overbought territory. It's up about 80% so far this year. Again, the number one gainer in the S&P 500 for the second year in a row early on here in 2024 by a mile. And again, among the top gainers in both the S&P and the NASDAQ 100.
And it was interesting to see all those other AI chip names rally today, you know, like Supermicro and SoundHound and some of those names as well.
Again, right? Yeah. Right. The momentum continuing again today in the trade. Hey, one more for you, Novo Nordisk. The ADRs that trade here in the U.S. up 3% at the close. They're pretty much finishing at its best levels of the session. Novo Holdings, the shareholder that controls Novo Nordisk, saw its income and investment returns surge tenfold last year as the Danish drug maker's sales of obesity medicine soared. I mean, we know the story. We've been talking about it. It was one of the big stories last year. It is again this year. But again, Novo Nordisk, the ADR is up about 3% here, Tim.
All right, let's get to some of the decliners on this Tuesday afternoon. I do want to start with Boeing. Shares finishing the day down by more than 4%. Now trading at October lows, not seen since October, I should say. Down almost 30% so far this year. A lot of headlines affecting the company coming out today. The FAA audit of the production of Boeing's 737 MAX found dozens of failures in the manufacturing process. This, according to a big report in the New York Times. Meantime, we learned earlier today that deliveries from Boeing trailed Airbus as the 737 MAX crisis continued to slow factories. And then all happening as the crisis at the company is starting to spread to the airlines that buy its jets, such as Southwest, which I'm going to get to in just a moment. Speaking of Southwest, shares falling the most.
That was quick.
Yeah, I know. I'm not doing a deep tease here. I'm just going right to Southwest. Down close to 15% today. This is the most since March of 2020. At one point in the day, shares were down the most since 2009. The company did come out and say that it plans to reduce capacity by at least 1 percentage point this year. It did cite Boeing's continued challenges and a fluid delivery schedule. Southwest does rely exclusively on Boeing for its fleet of 737 MAX aircraft. And then on holding, finishing the day down today, let's see, about 8.8%. It did fall as much as 18% earlier in the day. It issued first quarter and full year net sales forecasts that fell short of Wall Street expectations. It's a Swiss company. They make shoes. You see them everywhere. Fourth quarter net sales also missed the average analyst estimate. Analysts did say, though, that despite the results, the company continues to demonstrate positive momentum. Alix, do you have a pair of these shoes? I don't have them yet.
I was literally just being like, on holding. What do they look like?
I have them.
Yeah, Carol's got them.
You do?
Yeah.
Are they flat?
They're super light.
No,
They're
super light, and they have you almost feel like you're walking on bubbles.
Walking on bubbles.
That's their whole thing,
Walking
on cloud.
Sunshine.
On cloud.
Cool.
Walking on sunshine.
All right, I'm taking a look at yields guides because there was stuff that happened. So after that CPI, you saw the sell-off, you saw yields move higher pretty much across the curve. Then you also had that auction for the 10-year that was kind of meh. We get $30 billion worth of 30-year tomorrow. And then just crossing, you have a central bank governor over in Europe saying that the ECB is in broad agreement to cut rates in the spring, which just leads to the whole, hey guys, June, maybe we see some kind of central bank cutting cycle in the market, but then you get the hotter CPI and then you get conflicted.
Yeah, and look, I mean, this is all going to change, potentially change in a big way in about a week's time when we do get the Fed meeting and whatever communication they want to give. But everybody's been trying to sort of, I guess, read these economic tea leaves out of these economic reports here. But maybe they should just be, I guess, looking at, the real world.
I got some
Carol
tea.
Massar.
I got some tea leaves.
I was told you were out in the Hamptons this weekend shopping for a home.
I was not. I was.
Nice.
No. But there are many that are out there this weekend, and apparently home sellers are ready to buy a bunch of properties, and they're also ready to sell some properties. So they've been doing open houses out on the east end of Long Island.
How much is that one that we're showing right now?
I don't know what that is, but
I'm
listen,
guessing
it
it
might
might
be a little
be
outside my price range.
3 homes with asking prices of $20 million or more reached the market in February. That's up from just one last year. So if that's not for you, there's might be maybe a $6 or $7 million.
Time to put some of that cash to work, Romaine.
Cash on that cash
Not
on the
safe,
sidelines, Scarlett?
Not safe.
Well, speaking of real economic indicators, there's another one that we can look at, too, which is music festivals, because at least 10 of them have been canceled in the U.S. this year because prices have been going up. A lot of the price rise is being driven by the bands themselves, which are asking for higher prices because, of course, they lost income during the pandemic, so they're trying to make up for all of that. But everything's more expensive.
I think it's because nobody actually likes music festivals. This is my
When was the
thesis.
last time
Tim has been
anyone
on a rant.
on this television was at a music festival?
The bands don't even want to go to music festivals.
Okay, I have never
You're not
been
a
to music
Coachella
You know what I
kind
don't
of
like?
gal?
I said this earlier. There's nowhere to sit.
There's no
You're
bathrooms.
surrounded
he
by
said.
people you don't know. Is there a worse way to spend a weekend?
And it rains all the time.
It's all the
No,
time.
it's terrible.
Or you're
must
getting
go on.
sunburned.
Or maybe all the people are just getting older like us, and
I
then
think
we're
that's
like,
the
I
Come on,
don't know, this
Romaine.
stinks.
You've been to a music festival recently.
I have, and I'll say this. I think it's time for consolidation, as they say. Honestly, it was just too many of them. I mean, Tim talks about all the negative things. Tim, there's a lot of good things about the festival.
Go
too.
on.
But
doesn't?
the
They're
point
little
is,
ones.
you
We're
think
too
about how
toddlers,
many of
it's
these
not
things
fun.
come down the pike, and how many. It's like the same kind of artists or a lot of overlap in the artists, and it's like, I don't know, there's only so much to go around. Like, I don't need to see Ty Dolla $5 different times in one summer.
I also think that there's this idea of, if you want to spend serious money on a concert, you're going to spend that money to go to someone you really want to see, and not all of the other acts as well. So like not the headliners that, you have to put up with all the other bands to wait to see the
good thing about getting older, though, is like all my favorite acts, they understand the struggle, Tim. They're going to be seats. It's going to be, it's going to start early and end before 10 p.m.
Exactly.
Starts at 3 p.m. in the afternoon on Saturday.
For that music festival.
One of the most recent concerts I went to about a year ago, we did sell the floor tickets for seats later, as we got closer to the date. I was a little optimistic when I bought those floor seats.
Yeah.
We want a seat. We want a
Yeah,
seat.
I want to see. My legs get tired.
Absolutely.
No GA for me.
And we want a bathroom. All right, that's a wrap. Cross-platform coverage, guys. Beyond the Bell, Radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. We will see you again, same time, same place tomorrow.